NFL Draft is the subject of the Sportsnaut interview. And joining me today is Thor Nystrom. He's the NFL Draft college football analyst at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. Make sure you check him out. Also, Thor KU on X.com. One of the best follows you'll ever follow. I've always enjoyed following you, man. It's been a lot of fun. And appreciate your levity and your takes, all that stuff. So we're talking NFL Draft. We are on the eve of the NFL Draft, of course, finally here. So all these rumors and all this other crap can go away. We can actually get to picking players, Thor. But you look at this, a lot of rumors still swirling around a couple things. One is J.J. McCarthy, right? J.J. McCarthy, he's the weirdest dude to me because there's such a varying opinion on him, right? And where he could end up. Looks like Minnesota's a possibility, especially if they trade up with those 2 first-round draft picks they have. Tell me, why is J.J. McCarthy so polarizing amongst draft analysts, amongst the soothsayers who are looking at this year's draft and the quarterbacks in it?
With him, and I hate to be like however this is going to come across, but the people that don't like him are the people that look at box scores that have not watched him play. And the people that like him are the ones that have watched him play. That it pretty much comes down to that. The context of why his box score stats are lower than other guys, it's a couple different things. The first one is in 7 of the 15 fourth quarters this season, J.J. McCarthy took 0 snaps because Michigan was slapping people around so much. A couple of those ones he got pulled a little bit before that. So in the aggregate, he missed a little over 2 games just because of blowouts. The other thing is he didn't get empty calorie stats in his offense. Michigan played the best strength of schedule defensively of any of the top quarterbacks, the number 38 average defensive strength. For instance, Bo Nix played the number 80 defensive strength, et cetera, et cetera. So J.J. McCarthy was playing the best defenses in an offense where you did not get the empty calorie throws. Even Caleb Williams threw a decent percentage. It was screens with Caleb Williams. Their offense, it was either screen or else Caleb create. The Oregon offense was bigger chunk screen or else a pre-delineated look for Bo Nix where he knew where he was going with the ball before the snap. With McCarthy, it was all NFL concepts in the highest leverage spots, i.e. third down, third and long, those kind of things against NFL defenders. Against that murderer's row down the stretch, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, Alabama, national championship game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is where he was destroying people down the stretch. Last 13 games of that national title run as a 20-year-old true junior, J.J. McCarthy threw 1 interception.
Amazing. And, that's the thing. Jim Harbaugh got a lot of heat when he decided to take the Chargers job, and even going after the national championship game saying, hey, he's the best college quarterback coming out this year. People thought he was just being the nice coach. But I think he saw it from that perspective, like you said, running that pro offense, going against teams that show pro looks as well. So when you're an NFL scout, you're looking, okay, how is this guy going to be? How well will he be prepared when he walks in the building to face what he's going to face in the NFL? And certainly J.J. McCarthy continues to impress some of those people, or most of, I would say. You look at the other quarterbacks here. Look, of course, Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, everybody, that's kind of a foregone conclusion. Then you have Jaden Daniels and you have Drake Maye. And of course, you have Michael Penix somewhere maybe towards the middle, end of the first round, second round, who knows? But you look at these guys, and of course, the quarterbacks get all the love like they always do. But I look at Drake Maye, I look at Jaden Daniels, and of course he won the Heisman Trophy, but I don't get how tell me why. I think Drake Maye looks like he's going to be, might take some time, going to be a good quarterback. Am I wrong about that? Why is he kind of fallen out of favor, I think, in people's views?
I think the ceiling and the tools are for real. And I think that's the thing that, that's the thing that people love about him. And I think that's the thing too, maybe that carries, at least early on, the evaluation process was carrying too much of the day with his thing. And there wasn't enough talk about some of the risk and some of the things in his profile that led to more high and more elevated risk with Drake Maye. And also the contextual reasoning for why Drake Maye is probably the guy of the top 4 that initially needs to sit. I think the other 3 guys could go in and play right away. I think Drake Maye would be the exception to that. Now, the way that I refer to it is there's weeds in Drake Maye's game right now. But if you pull those weeds out, now we're cooking with gas. That's where you get that really cool pocket game. He has a bit of athleticism, can move around, has the creativity, has that big league arm. That's the thing that we love about Drake Maye, and he uses it vis-a-vis, like what I was talking about with JJ McCarthy, in ways that win at the NFL level. For instance, both of those guys, they have the heat ring intermediate throws. They beat defenders with anticipatory throws in that sector, which is something that Kevin O'Connell really likes in his offense. Obviously, the team is sniffing around the trade-up possibility. But yeah, you have to pull out some of those weeds initially, or I think it could be tough for Drake Maye early on.
Yeah, and you're looking at that spot, those first three spots. Of course, Washington badly needs a quarterback, and we know the Bears. And then you have the Patriots, and you start to see maybe Drake Maye, if Jaden Daniels does go second, like many people think he will, to Washington. We'll see. That third spot there, we heard this morning that the Patriots, of course, all the jazz coming out of New England is, hey, they're listening. But everybody always listens. That's the misnomer here, is that nobody's not going to pick up the phone. It doesn't, even if they don't want to trade the pick, they're going to listen because you never know what you're going to get. But you look at a team like the Patriots at 3 to take a Drake Maye, is that a bet? When a kid needs to develop, Thor, in a quarterback position, like you said, take the weeds out of his game. Is that a place to go when they're rebuilding, or is it better to go where you have a veteran, you're sitting, you're watching, you're learning, or does it matter?
If let's say I'm Drake Maye's agent, I go to bed every night praying that the Minnesota Vikings take him. That is the situation for Drake Maye. It is your high school coach in Josh McCown is the quarterback coach in Minnesota, in an offensive system that is tailor-made to your client's skill set, and also in a situation with two things. Number one, where they will afford you, I think, the opportunity early on to sit and learn in that sort of under the tree of knowledge that they have there in Minnesota. But also, once you step in, how could you ask for a more ideal circumstance? You have the best receiver in football on the one side. You have a stud wide receiver on the other side. You have an amazing pass catching tight end in Hawkinson. You have Aaron Jones. Then you have one of the NFL's best sets of starting tackles. And then the offense is being called by one of the best play callers we got in Kevin O'Connell. And again, in a system that is perfectly suited to your skill set. The nightmare scenario, I think, for Drake Maye is getting taken by the Patriots. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we took you to the top 3, so we need to see you out there right away. And now he's playing with this terrible supporting cast, and you need to be the face of the franchise. You need to go out there and do stuff. I think that's where you see the inaccuracy, the glitching under pressure a couple times a game. I think that's where you see it crop its head, and where things could go the other way for him.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about these quarterback situations. And we've had lots of discussions with folks around the league, and it's always about situation, And to me, the Patriots would be very smart to trade out of that position because they're not ready for a quarterback, right? And they're not going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. either. But if you move down, you can pick up picks. You need to get better as a team, so it makes more sense. Now, I look at you mentioned the Vikings, and of course Kevin O'Connell from my hometown of Carlsbad, California, and a San Diego State Aztec. So a Mountain West quarterback, 2 of them now coaching in the NFL. Isn't that crazy? You look at what the Vikings want to do. Clearly, they had the master move of getting that second first round pick. There's so many teams that want to trade up to get that quarterback this year, and the Vikings are sitting there with all the cards, I think. And when you look at those spots, you think 3 or 5 is a more likely scenario for them.
5. I think 3 is in play, but from what I've heard, the asking price has been too high so far. I do think that the Patriots are interested in listening, but I think from what I've heard, they want that truly Godfather offer. Like, we've thought about the Trey Lance trade as a Godfather offer, or in some respects, the CJ Stroud trade, the tech, or I guess technically it would have been the Will Anderson trade when the Texans and the Cardinals traded last year. Although that one seemed like a bigger package in the moment because the Texans' future first-round pick seemed like a much bigger asset in the moment. Obviously, that thing went the other way on the Cardinals' perspective. But I think that the Patriots, they're like, oh yeah, well, we would take a trade, but you're gonna have to beat. I think that's what it's been so far. You're gonna have to beat those two things. I think as we get into the home stretch here, it becomes, will the Patriots come down in their ask at all? And will the Vikings come up? And not only that, I think that there's some context dependent stuff that will inform whether those two things are the case.
Hmm.
I think it's going to depend on who's on, like when they get on the clock, who is there, because I think the Patriots like Jaden Daniels a whole heck of a lot. And there are scenarios you look at Washington's prerogative here. They have looked deeply into those quarterbacks. We don't really know who Washington is going to take of the three guys. They have not let anything leak out. So much so, remember when they brought in the four guys on the same day, which was kind of weird. But it's like, oh, we're not going to telegraph nothing. Jaden Daniels' agent did not appreciate that. The betting market reacted to that. But if indeed Washington went another guy outside of Jaden, that means Jaden gets down to pick 3. I think that's when the Patriots are like, we're not trading this unless you absolutely blow our doors off, something that everyone objectively would think is ridiculous. I think that's when the Vikings, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But I think in the other scenario where Jaden goes above you, I think there is that possibility of the Patriots come down in their ask a little bit, the Vikings go up a little bit. Maybe we can meet in the middle.
Well, and that's where, I mean, the Giants, we know, are on a hunt for a quarterback too, and they would probably love to be in that spot to get a quarterback. But like I said, the Vikings have the 2 first-round draft picks, so they're ahead of everybody in the game. You look at that. Do you believe, like I do, that it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 5 quarterback? Those 4 quarterbacks will go in that scenario like that.
I think there's 85%, 90%. I'd say 90% chance that it's the 4 quarterbacks in the top 6.
Top 6, yeah.
Yeah, I do. There's always, in the draft, and this is something I've learned over the years, you always think that you have some certainty heading in, but there's always, depending on, it's like, you ever see that movie Doctor Strange with Marvel, where it's like there's a million different realities, and it's like the sliding door thing, depending on the way that, like, the iteration of the Tetris board, there's always these outcomes that can present themselves where an unexpected thing can happen. And with the quarterbacks, there could be a couple of different things where the surprising thing of the QB4 gets through the wickets. And that's what I refer to, being a local Minnesotan, refer to from Kwesi's perspective as the calling the Giants bluff gambit, which if you wanted to save the draft equity of save the 23rd pick, save the first round pick next year, and you would have to presuppose that the Broncos do not have the assets to pony up big to move ahead of the Giants either, and that Jim Harbaugh is not going to trade with them anyway because he doesn't want to give his son JJ McCarthy to a division rival. It would just come down to, are the Giants telling the truth when they put that stuff out in the media that they will take QB4 there? Because if they're lying and they would take let's say the receiver, which they desperately need, that means that you could trade with number 7 as long as you beat the Broncos offer and give up much less than you would certainly for 3, but even for 5.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the draft, and the frustrating thing, I think, for fans, because they don't know what's going on. But there's a lot of stuff going on, and you're right. Until it starts, until that clock starts, you just don't know what's going to happen. Tell me what you think. What's going to be the biggest surprise in the first round, according to Thor?
I think that the one that could be, I don't want to say 100% because but I think the one that we could get right away that I think is more in play than other people is JJ McCarthy at number 2. I've said right from the get that this is going back months ago when the odds boards opened on the slots. With the number 2 slot, Drake Maye was minus 150. I did a whole Twitter thread on this in February when this opened up about, I don't believe that Drake Maye should be the favorite to go number 2. I said, I think Jaden Daniels should be the favorite. But I said that JJ McCarthy, who at that time was like 22-1, I believe, for that slot, I said he is the legitimate dark horse. And basically my argument was JJ McCarthy fits Cliff Kingsbury's offense better than any of those top 4 quarterbacks outside of Caleb Williams, who, of course, Cliff Kingsbury coached last season at USC. Does that mean that they will take him over Jaden Daniels, who had the incredible season and also has some parts of his game that certainly fit Cliff's prerogative? No, it doesn't. But to me, those are the 2 guys that Washington be looking at. So that could be the first surprise, which, of course, would then have the thing of shooting down Jaden Daniels to the number 3 slot, which then New England probably is not going to trade that, which then also opens up this thing of now Drake Maye is falling down the board a bit. And that's the guy that the Vikings have the connection to anyway.
Oh, wow. That would be fascinating if it all unfolded that way. Thor, we appreciate it. Check out Thor on X.com at ThorKU. Also, make sure you check out his 500, his Thor 500, which is the 500 player big board with comps and everything up on Fantasy Sports. Thor, we appreciate it, man. We'll get in touch with you. Talk to you again soon.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate you, man.